Mr. Bronson Dant, author of the Ultimate Ketogenic Fitness book. How are you today, my friend?
Doing fantastic, man. Absolutely great. How about you?
Excellent, doing great. You are the perfect person to bring on to get us started in this deep dive into ketosis. And so I'm going to ask
Hmm.
right off the bat, what is ketosis?
It's probably not what a lot of people think it is. Ketosis is really just having a lot of ketones in your blood. That's all it
Perfect.
is. That's it.
Yeah. So when we're thinking of ketosis, people often get this mixed up with keto that they see on the magazine at the grocery store. Is that correct?
That is correct. Because the name of what we call the ketogenic diet has its origins in the medical community, brain injury, traumatic, trauma, multiple sclerosis, epilepsy, things like that. So it's a neurological protocol necessarily from a medical perspective. The concepts and the ideas of the ketogenic diet kind of spread across a broad range of application. So you can follow a ketogenic diet that's not the same structure as medical ketogenic diet, more, let's call it lifestyle or body composition ketogenic diet, or general healing ketogenic diet. So there's different levels. And the idea behind the ketogenic diet from a general perspective is that your body is utilizing fat for fuel primarily, and you are not providing external sources of carbohydrates. That's the basis. That's the
Yeah.
basis. Now there's different levels, and that's where all the confusion comes in between what keto are you doing.
Yeah, interesting. Okay, so you already mentioned another term, ketogenesis. And if we just
Mhm.
break that down, that's just the creation of ketones, which our body can do in the right circumstances. Another word that a lot of people, I think, hear and get confused by is ketoacidosis. That sounds a little bit more scary. Is following a ketogenic diet, is it dangerous?
If you have diabetes now and you have an issue where you have an more, let's just say more ketones than your body can handle, then that can be a problem. But I have not personally, the hundreds of people I've worked with, I've never had anybody who's had that happen.
Yeah, I've never seen that happen to anybody outside of either a type 1 diabetic or
Mhm.
type 2 diabetics that are very, very poorly controlled. Is that
Right.
how you understand it?
Pretty much.
Okay, awesome. Cool, great. So I'm glad we kind of got those terms down. What are some of the ways you talked about different levels, but what are some of the ways that somebody could be in ketosis and what benefits do you think they might notice?
So, I mean, again, the definition of ketosis just means you have high ketones. So there's a couple ways to get there. The first way is to take in exogenous ketones. If you eat ketones, you're going to have more ketones in your blood. So technically you are in ketosis. And there are some studies and there's some practical evidence, real life evidence, that a higher level of ketones in the blood are helpful for neurological function. So that's why if you look at medical ketogenesis, the focus is on being in ketosis, having a high number of ketones, and that being 0.5 to 3 millimoles on a reading on a ketone test, ketone stick, so that your brain is getting all of the fuel and energy that it needs from the cleanest, most efficient sources possible, and that is ketones. The difference being between taking in ketones so your body can burn them and teaching your body how to break down body fat and turn your body fat into ketones is that that level of ketosis can go up and down. You can be in and out of ketosis without it actually affecting whether or not you're ketogenic,
Got it.
because ketosis is just a level of ketones. It doesn't have any bearing on where those ketones are coming from.
Got it.
And that's kind of the difference.
Got it. No, I really appreciate that. Tell us, you just mentioned sticking your finger. A
Mhm.
lot of people hear if you do this diet, you have to test your blood, or some people say you need to test either your breath or you have to use pee strips to detect whether you are in this state and producing ketones. Do you personally recommend that people track whether they're in ketosis or not?
It depends on the goal. Again, if you're trying to do something specifically for neurological health and you're trying to improve some kind of neurological factor, and that could be all sorts of things. Primarily, again, neurological stuff, epilepsy, multiple sclerosis. I have clients that have fibromyalgia. There's things that are dealing with nerves and how the brain works and things like that, where having high ketones can definitely be beneficial. And depending on the severity, all sorts of things that are individual to the person, they may not need to be that way all the time. So testing may not always for the rest of their life be a requirement, but in those cases, I would highly recommend it because you want to stay there. For the general person who's just trying to fix their metabolism, lose some body fat, gain some muscle, improve their general quality of life, it's more important to be ketogenic than in ketosis.
Perfect.
So it's more important that your body is processing adipose tissue for fuel than it is for you to have high ketones, because high ketones just mean, literally, high ketones means excess fuel.
Got it.
So excess fuel, if it's fat, isn't any better than excess fuel if it's carbs, if you're trying to lose body fat and change your body composition.
Yeah, interesting. Okay, so for that normal person who wants to try this diet, they might hear things that might deter them. Like, I've heard you get really nasty flu symptoms, or I've heard your breath can kind of stink, or I've heard that you have to eat, cubes of butter. What are some of the weird things that you hear that you need to help kind of coach people through? And how do people get over that adaptation period that can be just a little bit uncomfortable at first?
Sure, sure. Number one, there's absolutely nothing wrong or uncomfortable about eating sticks of butter. I'll make that clear. It's absolutely fine. It's fantastic. You should learn to love it.
Dude, I went on a camping, as a side note, I went on a camping
Yeah.
trip this weekend, and it was up in the mountains. You've been here in Salt Lake, and so I was up in the
Yep.
mountains. It was pretty high and pretty cold. I got to the point where I'd eaten all the food that I brought, and I
Yeah.
literally had like a quarter of a cube of butter left for my coffee the next day, and I just threw it right down the hatch and just ate it as was. It was delicious.
It's fantastic. I do it
So good.
probably more frequently than I should. But in general, the adaptation period we could get into a whole big discussion that's going to be way longer than 50 minutes about why you're making these changes and what you're trying to get out of it. And any discomfort that you go through in changing how your body functions to be more efficient, to have more energy, to be more capable, to do more things is going to be a change, which means it's going to be uncomfortable. But the question you have to ask is it more uncomfortable than the lifestyle you're currently living and the problems you're currently dealing with? So if you're dealing with health issues, if you're dealing with feeling limited in what your body can do, if you're dealing with feeling lethargic and lack of energy and just a general inability to function, then any change that's going to improve that long term is going to be worth it. There's just ways to do it. So that's where following a program, getting a coach, joining a community, and learning some of the different ways to kind of maybe soften that process, so it's not as harsh or impactful or intense, and you don't need to do it all overnight. But learning how to kind of work yourself through the process of adaptation is the way to go. A normal day-to-day adaptation should take most people, let's say, 7 to 14 days.
Yeah.
To kind of feel like you're okay and you didn't completely get slammed with the keto flu. If you go hardcore overnight and just change everything overnight, then you're going to have 3 or 4 days where you are not going to feel well. Yeah. If you keep your electrolytes up, if you slowly transition out of the carbs, if you do some other things over a 3, 4, 7-day period, you'll be able to make that transition a little bit easier.
Yeah, no, that's great. I think the longer that you and I have been coaching people through this process, we've been able to make it far less severe and also much faster. And I kind of give the example of, like, if you have a swimming pool, there's like a kind of a gradual end that you can go in more slowly and get used to the water, or there's the platform on the other side where you can jump into a cannonball into the pool. And either way, you're in the pool and you're wet. It's just you want to get it all over with really quickly, or you need it to be a little bit more slowly. And either one is totally fine.
Yeah, and some people are pull the Band-Aid off slowly. Other people are just rip it off. So it's kind of whatever works for you.
Yeah, that's right. I just want to know, for you personally, Bronson Dant, if I were to take away the ketogenic diet from you right now and put you back on the standard American diet, or the way that you were eating before you changed your life with this diet, how would that make you feel?
We'd be fighting, first of all. there'd be some confrontation. Secondly, how I would feel, I feel like crap, because that's how I felt before I did this. I was 70 pounds overweight. I felt like crap. I had IBS and gut issues. I had no energy. I had a bad self-image, like everything about my life and how I envisioned my future was not positive. So
Yeah.
where I'm at now, there's no way in hell I would want you to do that.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I think, again, coaching so many people through this process, I know of very, very few people who would be willing to go back to their past way of life and lifestyle before doing the ketogenic diet than afterwards. I think everybody universally just feels so much better, so much more energy and mental clarity, and they feel better physically in all those ways that you mentioned. So I think that's a really great point and a great way to end. Bronson Dant, where do you want people to go to find you and connect with you in your work?
Yeah, you can find me pretty much anything Ultimate Ketogenic Fitness. If you type in Ultimate Ketogenic Fitness on Google, it'll come up with me from somewhere. So Instagram, YouTube, the book, my website, all that stuff, Ultimate Ketogenic Fitness, and I'll come up somewhere.
Perfect. Well, thank you so very much, Bronson Dant, for this exclusive content.
Thanks.